Well, hey everybody, how we doing? Hope everybody's doing wonderful. I'm gonna try and do this quick. I've been so busy. I meant to do this yesterday and the day before, but just been too busy. All right, so let's go over a couple quick things. So currently, there's a lot of talk, and I mentioned it that Humberto and then Imelda, right? Okay, so um, when these two systems were forming. Okay, so this goes back a couple days. I did this a couple days ago. Like I said, I meant to do this. Um, okay, right here it says two Atlantic tropical storm systems, Humberto, to add a developing disturbance, could interact in a rare Fujiwara effect. Okay, which all that means is one system feeds off the other and grows into a bigger badder storm. Okay, and I found this funny because remember I said I'm just watching this storm and I'm also watching Atlas, and these two articles appeared back to on the same page right next to each other, so that was kind of cool. So what's happening? Okay, so let's you know okay, Humberto the destroyer is also the same thing as A1 Atlas. Okay, it's what plays out here plays out in the stars in a lot of cases, and they'll tell you that. Okay, so um, and we have a new one in the mix. That's Swan. It's supposedly coming to Earth, which I don't know. Um, but Humberto and um, the newest one, um, Imelda. Think of that as masculine and feminine. Okay, so this gets back to the Garden of Eden, the mixing of DNA, blah 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 blah. Now, as you see, it's from the recent reports. One isn't going to overtake the other. In fact, Humberto, as big and bad as it is going to drift off the coast and more than likely take the other one with it. They'll leave as separate things instead of the mixed, which is, yeah, there's been a lot of speculation around the Twin Towers and 9/11 and blah, blah, blah. That basically showed you two towers becoming one, okay? And not only is it symbolic in that aspect of things, it could also be, just like I said, at the end of World War II, there was a blending of timelines. There could have been a blending of timelines signified by the two becoming one. So, um, that's its own thing. And why do they call it, Humberto the Destroyer? And why do I look at, Atlas as being, because it's green now, right? Has anybody looked up and understand what green is? And I've said before, this is in several of my videos, and I might recover some ground because I do have a lot of not a lot, but new subscribers, and I know there's been people with me from the beginning. I do believe, and I appreciate that. But I showed this once too, right here. Okay, and that's why they call it a three-ring circus. See the three rings? And you'll also find it on the UN map. Now, the UN map and the Buddhist map actually have more rings. I think that has to do with more timelines. But the three main rings are right there. That's why it's called the three-ring circus. And we're in this inner ring, This is where Megalodon was. And now it's a great white. Everything was bigger here. There was more land, more surface. Now we're into this little dome right here. So, that's just that aspect of it. It's also, you can find it in the Bible even. Okay, and so, for all the Bible thumpers out there that, read their Bible and da 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 da, we'll come right here. Okay, the Bible records Peter suggesting to make three tents. for Jesus, Moses, and Elijah. And everyone agrees that reads the Bible, the script, that Elijah already raptured. That was one rapture event. Okay, those are your three domes, your, whatever you want to call them. Okay, so, and if we're also living all three timelines in this reality, that means Moses and Elijah are also here too. That's just how that works. I don't make this stuff up. I just read it differently. So now the other thing I said I was watching was the Epstein list, and this came out the same day, a couple days ago. Massey says he's got enough signatures to force the U.S. House vote in releasing the files. So, and they're going to point fingers at each other because none of them in there really wants to get it released, yada, yada, yada. It's all the show, right? It's just sit back. Don't get caught up in it. It is what it is. Okay, so Atlas, in the last video I showed a scene from Star Trek where the Klingon bird of prey, comes swooping in, decloaks, fires, and the Enterprise zinc. Okay, you have to understand that Earth isn't real. Okay? When all this changes, there probably is no Earth. That's just how that goes. This is, the remnant of everything, right? So, like a piece of dirt is symbolic, like I've said in the past, of a different planet. In fact, somewhere even in the book, the script, it says, the heaven and earth will fade away. So, but because Venus is here and Mars is here and Mercury is here with us, there's pieces of those planets that are here as well. So technically when they send up a rocket and it lands somewhere under the dome, they can realistically say, hey, we landed on Mars. That's just how that goes. Okay, so like I said, I've been watching, the comets, and especially the Atlas one, because it's green. And now they say it's going to head for Mars and it's going to hit Mars. Well, a piece of Mars is here, so men are from Mars, women are from Venus. In fact, this, you got this crazy clown. Harvard and NASA warns that Atlas will hit Mars very, very soon. Okay, so that is more than likely going to be the scene. It is the Enterprise. He is for Earth, but it's also Mars. It's also Venus. There's a lot going on here. Layers of the onion, right? But I do find this kind of coincidental. Okay, so we have a full harvest moon, and a lot of people who were pushing the 23rd, 24th Feast of Trumpets, we're comparing, they're now looking at the two calendars between the Julian and the Gregorian calendar, which is 13 days different, which actually makes the Feast of Trumpets now October 6th. Okay? And it also says to blow the horn at the Feast of Trumpets right at the new moon, which, if you invert everything, the new moon is typically when there is no moon. Oh, here we go. There's, heaven, not the heavens. Heaven and earth shall pass away. Okay, that's because this won't be here. Oh, right here. In the new moon, blow up the trumpet. And this has to do with, the Feast of Trumpets. But the new moon we call no moon, which inverted is probably the full moon. Okay, so there is a full moon coming, and it's the harvest moon, same day, October 6th. But what I found interesting is if you look at when the event happens as to Atlas passing Mars, that's October 3rd. And a couple years ago, when I thought this event was going to happen, then I wasn't, like I said, there was a lot of things I was unaware. Actually, if you watch my videos and you've been with me from the beginning, each time I have a new take on things, I guess it is, or I've learned something new to add to the puzzle, it actually goes into my videos. The only thing that has stayed constant in all my videos from the beginning is the fact that time's running backwards, and we have these different hops through time. That I've understood. I just didn't understand why, how, and I still don't know how, but it is what it is. And this may be why the days are going to be shortened, to avoid the destruction. Instead of leaving on the 6th, we may leave even on the 2nd or sometime on the 3rd, potentially. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know how any of this plays out. I just know how I see it. Another thing that's a dead giveaway is they'll tell you right here. Okay, the atlas is the first cervical vertebrae, C1, and the bone in your neck that connects to your skull. Okay, now the way I understand it, that particular bone, along with several others in your body, belong to like either reptiles or fish. We have fish bones and we have reptilian bones in our body, and since the two hemispheres of our brain are separated, it's probably the atlas vertebrae that is responsible for that. And they'll tell you that Atlas is because it was a particular satellite, yada yada yada. This was in the news, the curse. Okay, got all that stuff starting. It is what it is. Like I said, I just see it all differently. I showed this picture a long time ago. This is one of the Sumerian things. Okay, here's the box. Right, here's another box that he's sitting on. You've got three different you got mainly two different sizes of people here, but there's almost a third that has to be, and there could even be little people in that box. But to see the three people, that'd be your three windows in time, or Elijah, Moses, and Jesus, more than likely, because of who they are, right? Again, it is what it is. So we have Humberto not mixing with Amelia. We've got Comet Atlas that they say is going to hit Mars, but I think that day is not going to happen. I don't know. Or it may just fly by. There's a lot of people that are talking about, they're following Mars through the solar system and when it's going to go behind the sun, and supposedly all these events are important. It leads right up to Hanukkah, which I discussed the Christmas season last year, 2 years ago. See, what's amazing is I've seen all this. It's the same story over and over again. So the same stuff that I've been seeing in the sky and referencing as to what's going on, it's still going on because it hasn't come to an end yet. Obviously, we're still here. But that day is rapidly approaching. So, however it all plays out, just don't get too caught up in all the madness. I know there's, again, this is why Trump is sending troops to different cities, and it's not a coincidence that if you watch a movie like Independence Day with Will Smith, even northern Iraq, which we bombed a couple of months ago, saying it was their nuclear program, all the cities that are mentioned in that movie as to where there's UFOs hanging out are mentioned in that in that movie. Okay, there's a reason Los Angeles, Chicago, New York, all these cities always seem to be in the news, right? And that's why you have Comet Atlas that's arrived, Only the third known interstellar visitor in recorded history, and I showed you why it's the third known. It appears in all three windows. But that's why the troops, to get rid of illegal aliens, right? Not, yeah, it's the ones that come across the border, yes, but it's all symbolic, all of it. Our life here is symbolic. You know, the things that we go through here, in just our normal walk, the ups, the downs, and particularly the downs, we've been through that before. I made a comment once, that's why people have in dreams, they'll have the sensation of falling, because we fell. It shows up in our mind's eye, so to speak. So, just some more of the world according to Scott, some more of my zaniness. Which again, if we go back to the hopscotch thing, I was talking about this on the last video. This is why people will say they added 1,000 years to our calendar. Because just like prison sentences here can run congruent side by side, parts of the timeline exist side by side, and then they blend together. And each one of those blocks was 1,000 years. You may live through this block and come in here, and that timeline joins, and now you have 2,000 years of history, but there's only one block worth, even though it's split into two. Okay, so that's 1,000 years, but somehow we got 2,000 years added in. Voila. Like I said, I don't make this stuff up. I just see it differently than everybody else. And I always say I could be right, I could be wrong, because in a reality that this isn't real, we call it reality. We also call it a civilization, which if you look around, this is the most uncivilized thing you will ever stumble across. You supposedly live in a free country. Guess what? It's all, none of it's right. None of it, and that's why none of it's right. And in the script it says all these things have to happen because they happened once before in the past. So it has to happen. Period. So that's where you get into, the things I can and cannot control. The only thing we have control of in this reality is self. How we treat others, how we go about our business. It's all about self, period. And it's the ego that says it has to do with human race, right? How many times you hear these people get all traumatized. Oh, there's alien skulls and they're not human. Well, we're not supposed to be human either, slick, so get over it. We are the aliens. Everything's inverted. We have alien bodies. That's why in the script it says we are born into sin. You can come out and never commit a single crime in your life, whatever, and yet you're still born into sin. Well, that's because, the temple you maintain. And in the script it discusses sapphire, which is blue, and I've talked about this. Okay, so I don't know. I don't watch all the science fiction stuff. I stuck mainly to Star Wars, Star Trek, a few other things. But I know as in the Marvel world or the DC world, you've got that blue lady called Storm. Well, there's a storm called Amelia right off the coast. And Sapphire, right in the script, it talks about the kingdom, the house in the kingdom, whatever, which is our temple, which is our body, because we all come from gems. That's where the green comes in. Okay, and the blue and the red and all these different colors. Yeah, all the different colors under the rainbow, but we come out of the ground and we come from gemstones. That's why some people say, this is just part of our evolution. We didn't evolve from anything. Every time they show you a map and a change in the human history where we supposedly evolved, we were tampered with. In the beginning, we were made perfect. We got altered. We're not perfect anymore. We're going back to being perfect, so to speak. The perfect body, whatever. The perfect temple, right? Incorruptible. So some people will say that, we're gonna, yes, we are gonna get a crystalline body, but that's because that's what we were originally born with. It isn't something that we're evolving into like a caterpillar out of a cocoon. But in a small way, that is actually true as well, because we're going to go right from this to that. Even in the book, it says something about, the dead in Christ will be risen first, and everybody else will be transformed. When this goes down, 1 minute we're like, I've been saying this for years, and it's even in the Bible that way. As in the days of Noah, they'll be marrying and drinking and partying. In other words, life is going to be going on just like you see it. I'm pretty sure we're not going to deal with power outages, because if we were dealing with power outages and these 3 days of darkness and all this other stuff they like to throw out there, things wouldn't be happening like an every other day type of event. So that's the other constant I've had through all my videos, is we're just going to walk this walk, and then 1 minute we're going to be here, then next minute, next second, not even minute, next second we are going to be there, and it won't even be a second, it'll be a fraction of a second. How fast does the speed of light move? That's how fast this is going to happen, at the speed of light. And that's also in the music, Billy Thorpe, Children of the Sun, because like I said, we actually live, one of the layers, right, is we live on a sun, and that is the star that Venus and Mercury and Mars supposedly and everybody else spin around is us. So yeah, that's my nonsense for the day. So don't take none of this stuff seriously, don't take ourselves too seriously, because it's not real. Just, whatever troubles you've got going on, it's because you faced a trouble in the past, or you created more trouble for yourself in this reality through karma. I do believe that still exists in this reality. I've seen it play out way too much to completely discount it. So, leave your thoughts. If you have something to add, go ahead and leave a comment. I always check my comments. And that's the other thing I wanted to get into real quick. Apparently, I still don't get all my comments. My YouTube studio showed I had comments that I'd never received on my actual videos. I'm sorry if I didn't comment on one of your comments, because those of you who have been with me for a while knows that if I see it there, I'm gonna answer or something. You won't just be leaving a comment without a response. So, having said that, that's about all the madness I can put into one day. So have a great day, and we'll just keep watching things tick, tick, tick by. All right, I love you all. Goodbye.